Have you ever heard a whisper? A call so soft, so ancient, it stirs not the ears, but the soul. Tonight, weary traveler, let the noise of the waking world fall away. Let the heavy weight of forgotten days slip from your shoulders. You are invited into a place beyond memory, where forgotten kingdoms still breathe beneath veils of mist, where ancient legends sing from starlit branches, and where mystical realms stretch endlessly across the sleeping. Close your eyes now. Feel the soft pull of enchanted journeys waiting just beyond the horizon of dreams. Tonight, you will walk among hidden wonders, hear the echoes of the past stitched into the wind, and remember what it feels like to belong to timeless dreams. And before we begin, if your heart longs for more journeys like this, for more lost tales and sleeping worlds waiting to be found, consider subscribing to Mystical Sleep Tale. Many wander through without leaving a mark, but by subscribing, you keep the door open to countless forgotten kingdoms waiting just for you. Now, traveler, let your spirit step lightly into the mist. The heart of the enchanted forest is calling you, and it has waited an eternity for your arrival. On the very last day of her known life, Lyanna felt it, a hollowness stirring deep within her chest, a restless hum beneath her skin, as if unseen winds from forgotten kingdoms were calling her name. The familiar paths she walked each morning, the crowded streets filled with laughter and smoke, all seemed draped in a thin, faded veil, like a dream losing its. The sky itself felt heavier, muted, as though the ancient legends overhead had dimmed their stories, waiting for her to notice their silence. Every heartbeat was a whisper, urging her toward the unknown, to seek what lay beyond the worn edges of her ordinary world. It was late afternoon when her wandering feet carried her to the ruins, a place abandoned long ago, where time had cracked the stones and vines had tenderly claimed the walls. The air here was different, heavier with the scent of moss and old rain, vibrating with the silent song of mystical realms unseen by most. Lyanna paused, her breath catching on the threshold of something unseen. She could feel it, a tremor in the ground, a hum in the air, like sleeping worlds numbing just beneath her fingertips. The ruins seemed to lean toward her, as if urging her forward into a tapestry of enchanted journeys woven beyond sight. At the heart of the ruins, half buried under ivy and soft earth, she found it, a portal, or perhaps only a doorway carved from ancient stone, rimmed with glyphs so worn they seemed more memory than matter. It pulsed faintly, like the slow breath of some hidden wonder slumbering just beyond. Lyanna knelt beside it, tracing the weathered lines with trembling fingers. A warmth seeped into her skin, not burning, not painful, but rich, like the sun pressed deep within the soul. It was an invitation written not in words, but in longing, in the silent language of wandering souls. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with a thrilling ache, as if it too remembered lost tales it had never been taught. A single step was all it took, a breath held and released, and the world she knew melted away. The crossing was not a flash or a roar, but a slow, rippling shift, as if she was sinking into the skin of a timeless tree. Sounds stretched and folded round her, the sigh of forgotten winds, the murmur of invisible rivers, the faint laughter of stars peeking through distant mists. Every sense was wrapped in velvet, muted colors, softened scents, a gravity that pulled her deeper and deeper into sleeping worlds untouched by day. The ground beneath her feet felt alive, pulsing gently with the heartbeat of hidden wonders. Light, thin and shimmering like dew on cobwebs, danced along her skin, threading into her hair and clothes, weaving her into this new tapestry of existence. As she drifted farther, the very air seemed to shimmer with echoes of the past, promises of mystical realms waiting to be discovered, secrets stitched into the fabric of endless, enchanted journeys. It was as if every forgotten kingdom, Every ancient legend ever whispered in the twilight was waiting just beyond her next step. There was no true sense of rival, no grand threshold crossed, only a deepening of sensation, a widening of the heart. Lyanna felt herself dissolving into the land itself, her breath joining the breeze that smelled of sweet earth and old magic, her heartbeat echoing in tune with the slumbering dreams beneath her feet. It was a place where time had never sharpened its teeth, where wandering souls floated gently along rivers of starlight, where the shadows between trees whispered greetings in voices soft as the first snowfall. Somewhere, deep within this mystical realm, she sensed a presence, not threatening, but vast and patient, like an ancient forest waiting to share its forgotten secrets. It wrapped itself round her gently, like the hush before a sacred song, or the heavy, golden hush of dusk settling over a hidden valley. The portal behind her dissolved into mist, and before her stretched a path veiled in light and silence, a path that wound deeper into sleeping, into the heart of hidden wonders beyond anything she had ever dared to dream. Without hesitation, guided by the invisible hands of ancient legends, Lyanna stepped forward into the unknown, and the enchanted journey began. As Lyanna took her first tentative steps into the new world, a soft gasp escaped her lips, lost almost immediately in the honey-thick air. Above her, the sky stretched vast and low, painted in deep violets and brushed with silver streaks, as if ancient legends had unraveled themselves across the heavens. Stars, brighter and more languid than she had ever seen, seemed to dance in slow spirals, each pulse of light a heartbeat in the great sleeping worlds that now surrounded her. The ground beneath her feet was unlike any earth she had ever known. It was not soil nor stone, but a living tapestry woven from luminous moss. Softly glowing with an internal fire of gentle blues and greens, it yielded beneath her weight, with a tender give, as if sighing in welcome, whispering forgotten kingdoms' greetings to the soles of her boots. Every step released a subtle, sweet fragrance, a mingling of wild herbs, old rain, and something deeper, something like the first breath of a newborn dream. Round her, the forest stretched endlessly, a vast cathedral of towering trees whose trunks shimmered faintly in the otherworldly light. Their leaves, though motionless, caught the violet glow and reflected it in hues of muted gold and dusky crimson, creating a living mosaic of colors that seemed to hum in the stillness. It was a mystical realm, a sacred hollow where timeless dreams had taken root and flourished unseen by waking eyes. As she moved deeper into the forest, Lyanna became aware of the subtle shift in the air, a thousand tiny breezes weaving through the branches, carrying with them the softest whispers. At first, she thought it might be the rustling of leaves, but as she listened more closely, she realized the forest itself was speaking. Words too old to remember, syllables too soft to capture, danced on the edges of her mind, stirring echoes of the past in a language older than time. Tiny creatures, no larger than petals, drifted round her like living motes of light. Their wings, translucent and shimmering, caught the faint starlight and scattered it into rainbows that flickered and vanished almost as quickly as they appeared. They sang as they floated, high, crystalline notes that seemed to stitch themselves into the fabric of the forest's quiet song. Lyanna reached out a hand instinctively, but they scattered, laughing, a giggle of music across the... More than once, she felt the sensation of being watched, not with malice, but with a kind of solemn curiosity. Hidden wonders stirred behind ancient tree roots, in the folds of the mossy ground, in the hollow spaces between one breath and the next. She caught glimpses of shadowy forms slipping between trunks, always just beyond full sight, as if the very spirits of forgotten kingdoms were observing the newest wandering soul to tread their sacred paths. There was a magic here not born of spells or incantations, but of memory itself, a deep, pulsing life that hummed in every stone, every leaf, every tendril of mist. It was the magic of sleeping worlds kept alive by dreamers, by the lost tales spun in the silence between stars. Lyanna moved with reverence, her hands brushing bark that seemed to thrum like a heartbeat, her ears drinking in the whispered songs of the ancient, invisible choir that sang of enchanted journeys yet to come. With each step, she felt herself sinking deeper into the dream, as if the forest were not merely a place, but a living story that had waited for arrival. And though she knew not where the path led, nor what trials lay ahead, Lyanna smiled softly to herself, for in her heart stirred a truth too powerful to deny. She had found a doorway not just to another land, but into the endless, wondrous expanse of forgotten kingdoms waiting to be remembered. With the forest's whispered songs guiding her, Lyanna ventured deeper into the mystical realm, each step a silent vow to embrace whatever hidden wonders awaited her. The very ground seemed to sigh beneath her weight, releasing faint, shimmering trails of mist that clung to her boots before dissolving into the air like forgotten kingdoms fading into memory. It was as if the forest itself wove a soft veil between her and the world she had left behind, cocooning her in the delicate breath of sleeping worlds. She soon stumbled upon rivers unseen by the naked eye, their presence marked only by the way the moss curled around them and the sudden coolness brushing against her skin. When she knelt and reached out a tentative hand, her fingers passed through something that was neither water nor air, but a fluid shimmer that tingled pleasantly upon contact. These invisible rivers sang a melody so subtle, so ancient, that it seemed stitched into the very silence. Their music carried the weight of lost tales, of ancient legends cradled gently by time's patient hands. In a clearing bathed in perpetual twilight, Lyanna found flowers that sang. Their petals, translucent and trembling with light, vibrated in soft tones whenever the breeze stirred. Each note was a memory, a child's laughter, a lover's sigh, the final whisper of a king gazing at his crumbling, forgotten kingdom. She sat among them for a time, letting the melodies wash over her, feeling herself become less flesh and more dream, a wandering soul woven into the endless hymn of timeless dream. Wandering further, she encountered stones that defied gravity, great slabs of rock suspended serenely in midair, slowly orbiting invisible centers. Luminous trails connected them, strands of silvery light that vibrated ever so slightly when she passed beneath. It was a dance choreographed by the unseen hand of the mystical realms, a dance that had spun for countless ages without audience or applause. Lyanna marveled at the silent beauty of it, wondering how many enchanted journeys had begun and ended under such silent sentinels. With every breath she took, something deep within her began to stir, something ancient and waiting, a small ember long buried beneath years of mundanity. The magic here did not shout or blaze. It whispered, called gently round the heart, and invited it to remember. And Lyanna, feeling the first sparks of that inner fire, realized she was not just walking through hidden wonders. She was awakening to the truth that she, too, belonged among them. A vessel for forgotten dreams. Tiny motes of light, the same winged creatures from before, returned to her side, their songs now harmonizing with the quiet symphony of the forest. One brave speck hovered before her face, its wings a blur of iridescent gold, its gaze, if such a thing could be said of a being so small, curious and expectant. Without knowing why, Lyanna extended her hand, and the little creature alighted upon her finger, sending a warm pulse through her veins, a reminder that even in the vastness of forgotten kingdoms, connection was possible. The path twisted and turned, folding upon itself like the pages of an ancient, living book. Every bend, every arch of tree root overhead, whispered of echoes of the past, of other wandering souls who had walked this way before, who had heard the forest's song and been forever changed. Lyanna felt their presence in the rustle of unseen feet, in the ghost touch of laughter curling round her ears, in the faint impressions left upon stones worn smooth by centuries of dreaming steps. And so she walked, heart open, breath slow, soul adrift yet anchored, into deeper layers of the sleeping world. Every step was an act of faith, every heartbeat a stitch sewn into the fabric of this mystical realm. Ahead, new wonders waited, veiled in twilight mist, promising more enchanted journeys, more hidden truths, and the unfolding of magic that had slumbered too long within her waiting spirit. It was only when the forest opened onto a yawning ravine that Lyanna hesitated for the first time. Before her stretched a bridge unlike any she had ever seen. No stone, no rope, no crafted wood, but a vast, living braid of roots, gnarled and ancient, twisting and writhing in slow, deliberate patterns over the chasm below. The roots shimmered faintly under the violet sky, as though remembering ancient legends whispered into their bark during timeless dream. Crossing it would be no simple task. The bridge breathed and shifted, alive with the memory of forgotten kingdoms. She stepped closer, the ground soft and warm beneath her boots, feeling the faint pulse of hidden wonders thrumming up through the soles of her feet. The ravine beneath the bridge was a swirling misty abyss, its bottom lost to sight, as if it opened directly into the sleeping worlds far below. Lyanna swallowed hard, her palms damp, her heart thudding in her chest like a wild drum echoing through the mystical realms. This was her first true test, a threshold drawn by the ancient heart of the enchanted forest itself. The first step onto the bridge was a tremor through her soul. The roots shifted in subtle response, coiling tighter in some places, loosening in others, as if deciding whether to accept her weight. The texture was unlike anything she had ever felt, rough with age yet tender with life, a paradox of strength and fragility. Each step was a negotiation, a silent conversation between her cautious feet and the ancient legends that lived in the sinews of the bridge. Halfway across, the bridge lurched beneath her, a slow, undulating ripple as a gust of unseen wind whispered through the trees. Lyanna gasped, instinctively dropping to her hands and knees, her heart hammering in terror. Below, the mist churned hungrily, and for a fleeting moment, she felt herself slipping, not just physically, but spiritually, as if she might tumble into the very heart of the forgotten kingdoms, to be cradled forever by sleeping worlds. Then, from the corner of her vision, delicate lights flickered, the tiny winged beings who had accompanied her earlier. They circled around her, weaving strands of golden light in patterns that calmed her trembling breath. In their presence, the chaotic beating of her heart softened into a steady, determined rhythm. The forest, she realized, was not testing her strength. It was testing her trust. Trust in the mystical realms, trust in the enchanted journey she had chosen, trust in herself. Taking a slow, deep breath, Lyanna rose once more to her feet. She shifted her weight carefully, feeling the living bridge respond beneath her. Each step became a dance of balance and belief, a sacred act of faith between a wandering soul and the echoes of the past. She no longer fought the shifting roots. She moved with them, flowing like a leaf upon a secret current. In surrendering to the rhythm of the sleeping worlds, she found her footing. At last, with one final, cautious step, Lyanna reached the other side. The ground beyond the ravine was firm, kissed by soft moss and the quiet applause of invisible wind. She turned back to the bridge, bowing her head in gratitude, recognizing it now not as an obstacle, but as a guardian of hidden wonders, a living testament to the ancient legends that shaped this mystical realm. Without a word, the bridge began to unweave itself, the roots slowly retracting into the forest floor, sealing behind her the path she had crossed. There would be no going back the way she had come, only forward, deeper into the heart of the enchanted journeys that awaited her, among the lost tales and timeless dreams of the sleeping world. Beyond the bridge, the forest deepened into a place where the very air seemed thicker, honeyed with the scent of ancient sap and distant rain. The trees grew larger here, their trunks twisted and gnarled into towering forms that reached hungrily for the violet heavens. Shafts of soft, golden light pierced the dense canopy, illuminating small pools of mist that drifted lazily across the forest floor. It was in one such clearing, where the ground pulsed gently with the heartbeat of sleeping worlds, that Lyanna first felt the presence of another. She sensed him before she saw him, as stirring in the mist, a ripple through the timeless streams that bound this realm together. When he finally stepped into view, it was as if the forest itself had shaped a being in its own image. Towering yet graceful, Lyanna was neither fully man nor fully tree, but something sacred woven between the two. His skin bore the texture of ancient bark, etched with the echoes of the past, and his eyes shimmered like deep forest pools reflecting hidden wonders unseen for countless ages. The moss at his feet glowed softly as he approached, and the canopy above him seemed to part with reverence, allowing the starlight to dance upon his broad shoulders. Lyanna stood still, breathless, as Lyanna regarded her with a gaze that was at once aidless and infinitely kind. The gaze of one who had seen countless wandering souls pass before him, each drawn to the mysteries nestled within forgotten kingdoms. When he spoke, his voice was the low hum of the earth itself, vibrating through the ground and rising through the soles of her feet. "You have come far, child of the fleeting world," he said, his words slow, deliberate, soaked in the wisdom of mystical realms untouched by time. Few hear the call, fewer still cross the threshold, fewer yet are ready to seek the heart of the forest. Lyanna stepped forward, her voice a mere whisper against the great symphony of sleeping worlds round her. "I want to learn," she said, and though her words were simple, they carried the full weight of her longing, a longing for something beyond the pale edges of her former life. For the enchanted journeys she had only ever glimpsed in dreams. She wanted to touch the hidden wonders, to weave herself into the forgotten kingdoms before they faded into true silence. Lyanna studied her for a long moment, and Lyanna felt as if the very roots of the earth were measuring her soul. Then, with a slow, graceful motion, he extended a hand, broad, rough, and warm sunlit bark. "You may choose," he said. "Learn the secrets of the heart, or return to the world you left behind, and marked by this meeting, carrying only the faintest echo of the past in your waking dream." The weight of the choice pressed against Lyanna's chest, heavier than any burden she had ever borne. To return was to step back into the known, to let the mystical realms recede into half-remembered mist. To stay was to surrender fully to the timeless dreams, to become part of the enchanted journeys that pulsed like hidden rivers through the sleeping worlds. She looked into Lyanna's patient eye, into the swirling depths where lost tales and ancient legends danced like embers, and in that moment, her heart decided. With quiet resolve, Lyanna placed her hand within his. The forest round them exhaled a deep, slow sigh, and somewhere in the distance, a bell tolled, not in warning, but in welcome. She had chosen the path of the seeker, the bearer of dreams, the guardian of forgotten kingdoms. And thus, her true journey into the hidden wonders of the enchanted forest began. Guided by Lyanna's silent nod, Lyanna set forth into the deeper folds of the forest, where paths bent and twisted like the ancient lines of forgotten kingdoms carved into the earth. The light dimmed into a soft, perpetual twilight, and the air thickened with a quiet expectancy, as if the very trees leaned closer to bear witness to the beginning of her true initiation. Her first destination would be the Shrine of Water, a place whispered about in ancient legends as the river of memory itself. The path led her to a hidden glade where a river shimmered without rippling, as though frozen in time. Its waters, clear as polished glass, reflected not the sky but shifting visions, moments not from her own life alone, but fragments of timeless dreams stitched together from the countless wandering souls who had walked these mystical realms. As she knelt by the river's edge, the surface shifted, revealing her own face intertwined with scenes of love lost, laughter forgotten, fears once conquered. The shrine of water did not merely reveal, it reminded, weaving lost tales back into her soul with tender precision. Leaving the river behind, she climbed winding trails carried by winds that sang in whispers. The air grew thinner, lighter, charged with unseen energy that prickled across her skin. At the shrine of air, there were no stones or altars, only the endless sky spinning in gentle spirals above an open plateau. Here, Lyanna stood with arms outstretched, allowing the whispers of ancient legends to course through her veins. The winds spoke not with words, but with feelings, joy, sorrow, hope, wrapping her in the pure breath of sleeping worlds, filling her lungs with dreams too vast for any waking realm to hold. The path to the next shrine dipped into valleys heavy with the scent of loam and growing things. Beneath her feet, the ground pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat shared between the forest and the shrine of earth was not a structure, but a gathering of colossal stones, moss-laden and warm to the touch. Lyanna laid her hands upon them, feeling the slow, ancient pulse of hidden wonders deep beneath the skin of the world. Here, strength was not found in resistance, but in rootedness, in surrendering to the steady, patient rhythm of the forgotten kingdoms beneath her feet. Her final trial awaited in a hollow where the trees grew sparse, revealing a small clearing lit by a flickering flame that hovered above a bed of smooth black stones. The shrine of fire pulsed with raw life, its light casting wild, dancing shadows that stretched into the mist. As Lyanna approached, the flame grew taller, its heat a crest rather than a threat. To step close was to face her own fears reflected back at her, failure, loneliness, the slow erosion of hope. She knelt before the eternal fire, feeling its warmth bleed into her bones, burning away the brittle doubts clinging to her heart like dead leaves. One by one, the trials wove their lessons into the tapestry of her being. Water taught her remembrance. Air gifted her the language of feeling. Earth offered her the entrance of ancient stone. And fire, fierce and tamed fire, reignited the courage that had always smoldered quietly within her soul. These were not powers to be wielded, but truths to be carried, stitched into the marrow of her spirit, into the silent songs she would someday sing across the forgotten kingdoms. As she returned to the main path, the forest itself seemed to shift in acknowledgement, trees bowed subtly, and unseen bells chimed low and sweet among the branches. Lyanna walked now not as a stranger, but as one initiated, a traveler bearing the blessings of the mystical realms, a guardian of echoes of the past, and a bearer of enchanted journeys yet to be written. The sky above her deepened into a rich indigo, sprinkled with stars that pulsed like slow, steady heartbeats. Ahead, the path beckoned once more, winding toward new hidden wonders, new trials and revelations. And deep within her chest, Lyanna felt the first true strings of belonging, as if the sleeping worlds themselves had whispered, in voices only dreamers could hear, "You are home." The path led Lyanna down a gentle slope where the trees grew sparse, their trunks parting like reverent sentinels unveiling a sacred secret. Before her stretched a vast, crystalline lake, so still it seemed a flawless mirror, capturing the violet sky and the trembling stars in perfect, breathless detail. The Lake of Dreams, a place whispered of in ancient legends, where wandering souls came to glimpse their truest reflections, and where sleeping worlds whispered their deepest hopes and fears. The air here was thick with the scent of damp earth, wildflowers and something sweeter, a fragrance not of the body, but of memory itself. Every step she took toward the water's edge stirred the stillness only slightly, sending delicate ripples across the glassy surface. The lake shimmered with echoes of the past, woven into its depths like faint songs half remembered. Lyanna knelt at the shoreline, her reflection gazing back at her, but it was not merely her own face she saw. It was the face of every dream she had ever abandoned, every hope she had dared to cradle. As she leaned closer, visions bloomed across the water like the unfolding petals of a ghostly flower. Scenes of loneliness flickered first. Her sitting alone by a window, watching the rain smear the world into grey, loss followed, the farewell of a friend, a dream unfulfilled. The ache of moments that slipped like mist through grasping fingers, the reflection shimmered down, shifted, pressing against her heart with the heavy tenderness of forgotten kingdoms longing to be remembered. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sorrow alone, but from the recognition of how deeply she had yearned, how fiercely she had loved and lost and still dared to hope. The lake sang softly as her tears touched its surface, the melodies swelling into chords stitched with timeless dream. Lyanna understood now. The lake of dreams did not seek to show her despair. It sought to show her strength, the hidden wonders she had forged from pain, the resilience that had carried her across all her lost tales. Within the shimmering depths, she saw her future as well, fragile and shifting, a tapestry yet incomplete. There were paths of loneliness, yes, but also radiant roads of connection, of courage, of discovery. Faces she did not know yet smiled at her through the mist, and among them, she saw the faint outline of golden trees blossoming under foreign skies. The mystical realms were not separate from her destiny. They were part of her, etched into the marrow of her being, waiting for her to claim them, rising slowly. Lyanna placed her hand upon her heart, feeling the pulse steady and strong beneath her fingers. She had faced the reflections of her deepest fears and found within them the seeds of her truest self. No longer a stranger adrift in forgotten kingdoms, she was a guardian of the hidden wonders that had called to her from the sleeping worlds. She belonged here, and yet she knew her journey was not meant to end at the Lake of Dreams. The waters stilled once more, their visions folding back into silence, leaving only her reflection smiling faintly beneath the violet heavens. Lyanna turned from the lake, her footsteps sure and steady, carrying with her the light she had rekindled within her own soul. Ahead, the path awaited, not brighter nor easier, but clearer, woven now with the golden threads of self-awareness, bound to the echoes of the past and the enchanted journeys yet to unfold. As she moved into the mist, the Lake of Dreams whispered after her, a final blessing, a final call, promising that no matter how far she wandered, the sleeping worlds would forever hum her name in the soft, secret music of forgotten kingdoms. Beyond the Lake of Dreams, the forest grew darker, heavier, as if the very mist thickened with each hesitant step Lyanna took. She entered a hollow ravine, swirling fog where the trees seemed to hunch inward, their twisted branches knitting together to blot out the violet sky. This was the Whispering Vale, a place the ancient legends spoke of only in murmurs, where wandering souls faced the greatest trial, the shadow of forgetting. Here, even the sleeping worlds seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see if she would endure or be lost among the hidden wonders forever. The atmosphere pressed against her like unseen hands, cold and damp, seeping into her bones. Every breath tasted of rain left to long unfallen, of dreams abandoned to rot in darkened corners. As Lyanna moved forward, the voices began, soft at first, like a lover's sigh in sleep, but growing steadily sharper, more urgent. They called her by name, wove her fears into sentences slick with doubt. You are nothing. You are lost. You were never meant for the Forgotten Kingdoms. They slithered into her mind, planting seeds of hesitation among the timeless dreams she had so carefully gathered. The ground grew treacherous, shifting like sand beneath her feet. Shapes flickered in the mist, familiar faces twisted by sorrow, roads she could have taken, moments she had forsaken. The lost tales of her life rose up around her, ghostly and accusing, demanding she remember the weight of all she had failed to become. It was not just memory she faced here. It was the ache of possibility unrealized, the cold, sharp truth of her own fallibility whispered on the breath of the sleeping worlds. Then the mist coalesced into a form, tall, shifting, featureless, a creature stitched from the shadows of her deepest fears. Its presence was suffocating, its movements languid and cruel. The shadow of forgetting stretched out a hand of mist and bone toward Lyanna, and she staggered backward, clutching the fragile light she had kindled at the Lake of Dream. The creature spoke without words, pouring doubt into her mind like cold water. Forget, sleep, fade. But within her heart, a stubborn warmth flickered, the memories of the hidden wonders she had seen, the songs of enchanted journeys that had carried her across mystical realms. She drew upon them now, not as weapons, but as shields. She remembered the river that revealed her courage, the winds that spoke her name, the earth that cradled her steps, the fire that refused to die. Each memory a thread, a stitch, a sacred echo of the past tying her to the life she had chosen to reclaim, summoning every shard of joy, hope, and love she had ever held. Lyanna stepped forward and spoke aloud, her voice trembling but clear. I am not forgotten. I am not lost. I am the dream that endures. The mist recoiled as if stung, the creature wavering, its form unraveling under the weight of her defiant song. Round her, the mist quivered. The shadows frayed like old cloth, and a soft, golden light seeped from within her chest, pushing outward, driving the darkness back into the cracks of the sleeping worlds. With each word, each heartbeat, the shadow of forgetting grew smaller, its form less certain, until at last it burst apart in a silent explosion of mist and scattering into the air like the last breath of a nightmare at dawn. Silence fell once more, not heavy now, but pure, vibrant, humming with the quiet triumph of ancient legends fulfilled. Lyanna stood alone in the clearing, but she was no longer the same soul who had entered the veil trembling. The path ahead was no clearer, the journey no easier, but something within her had shifted, a deeper strength, a fiercer hope, rooted in the soil of the forgotten kingdoms she now carried inside her. Round her, the forest stirred in quiet celebration, as if the sleeping worlds themselves had exhaled in relief. And with a steady heart, Lyanna turned once more toward the unseen road, knowing that the next step would carry her even closer to the heart of all hidden wonders. The mist of the whispering veil lifted like a curtain drawn back by unseen hands, revealing a forest renewed, not brighter, not louder, but pulsing with the serene clarity that Lyanna had never before known. The heavy weight that had pressed against her chest was gone, replaced by a lightness that seemed stitched into the very marrow of her being. Every tree, every stone, every sigh of wind now shimmered with invisible threads connecting her to the hidden wonders she had fought to remember. She had not merely survived the shadow of forgetting, she had become something new, something stitched forever into the forgotten kingdoms she now called home. As she moved forward, she felt the land itself respond. Roots shifted gently beneath her feet, flowers turned their unseen faces toward her, the very air carrying her name in the hush of ancient legends. It was as if the mystical realms had been holding their breath until this moment, waiting for her to step fully into her true form. The sleeping worlds stirred awake in quiet applause, recognizing one of their own return from the long drift through fear and forgetting. Lyanna paused beside a slender stream, whose waters ran silver and sang no song of sorrow. Only a soft hymn of beginnings. She knelt and cupped the shimmering water in her hands, feeling its cool blessing seep into her skin. In the rippling reflection, she no longer saw the timid girl who had stumbled through forgotten doorways. She saw a soul alight with the fire of timeless dream, a bearer of lost tales ready to weave new stories among the stars. The forest led her onward to a glade where the light hung thick as honey, suspended in golden beams that touched the ground like a benediction. In the center, a great tree rose, vast, ancient beyond memory, its bark etched with the echoes of the past, its boughs heavy with blossoms that glowed with soft internal light. It was the heart of the forest itself, breathing with a slow, eternal rhythm, welcoming her not as an intruder, but as a long-lost daughter returning at last. Drawn forward by a pull that was more feeling than thought, Lyanna laid her hand upon the bark. Instantly, warmth flooded her veins, not the fiery heat of battle, but the deep, sustaining warmth of being truly known. Memories she had not lived flickered behind her eyes, enchanted journeys across misty fields, whispered conversations with stars, ancient legends told by fires older than the moon. All the lives, all the dreams, all the hopes carried by wandering souls before her now lived within her heart. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, letting the pulse of the heart sink with her own. In that sacred stillness, she understood. She was both seed and soil, dream and dreamer, echo and voice. She was the bridge between the forgotten kingdoms and the waking world, the keeper of hidden wonders and the sower of new timeless dream. She had not come to merely remember, she had come to become. When she opened her eyes once more, the forest had shifted subtly, not changed, but harmonized. The colors were richer, the sounds more resonant, as if she now walked not alongside the mystical realms, but within them, her soul stitched into their eternal fabric. She was no longer a visitor passing through sleeping worlds. She was part of their living memory, a flame rekindled in the hush of ancient woods. With a heart strengthened by trial and a spirit reborn in the sacred hush of the enchanted forest, Lyanna took her first steps as a true child of the hidden wonders. And though the journey ahead was still unwritten, she knew, with a certainty as vast as the starlit sky, that she carried within her the breath of countless lost tales in the bright, enduring song of all the forgotten kingdoms. As Lyanna stepped away from the heart of the forest, the very ground beneath her seemed to vibrate with a new, jubilant rhythm. It began as a subtle tremor, a quiver in the roots, but quickly swelled into a gentle, rolling pulse that traveled up the great trunks and spilled into the violet sky like an invisible golden tide. The enchanted journeys she had undertaken, the battles she had weathered, the timeless dreams she had rekindled, all of it echoed now in a quiet chorus of celebration among the sleeping worlds. From the mists between the trees emerged creatures of all shapes and hues, beings born from the fabric of mystical realms, stitched together from starlight, mist, and memory. Tiny winged fire with luminous wings, willowy spirits cloaked in moss and moonbeams, animals carved from living wood and stone, all gathered round her in reverent silence, their eyes glowing with the soft, steady light of hidden wonders reborn. They circled her slowly, weaving patterns in the air, a sacred dance older than any forgotten kingdom. The wind itself seemed to sing, lifting fallen leaves into spiraling dances that shimmered like spun gold. High above, the stars blinked in and out, their slow pulse matching the heartbeat of the forest. Every breath Lyanna took was steeped in the sweetness of blooming flowers, ripe fruit, and the warm scent of earth newly kissed by rain. She felt herself woven deeper into the mystical realms, a thread gleaming among the vast, intricate tapestry of ancient legends and lost tales. At the edge of the lake of dreams, where the waters still shimmered with faint, slumbering visions, the sacred ceremony began. Lyanna stood at the heart of a circle formed by the gathered beings, her figure bathed in soft starlight. They raised no instruments, spoke no words. Their celebration was not bound by the language of the waking world. Instead, they sang with their hearts, their very presence resonating with a melody that stitched itself into the quiet hush of the sleeping world. From among the gathering stepped Lyanna, his great, bark-clad form radiant under the silver haze. In his gnarled, gentle hands, he carried a single object, a golden seed, no larger than a raindrop, yet pulsing with a light so pure it made the stars themselves seem. As he approached, the crowd parted in silent reverence, and Lyanna felt a lump form in her throat, for she understood, without being told, the significance of this hidden wonder. Kneeling before her, Lyanna extended the seed. This, he rumbled softly, is the memory of the forest, the breath of forgotten kingdoms, the hope of wandering souls. Carry it beyond these timeless streams, and wherever it touches earth, new wonders will awaken. His words wrapped round her like a blessing, stitching her heart forever to the sacred song of the mystical realms. Lyanna accepted the seed with trembling fingers, feeling its warmth seep into her skin, into her blood, into the very bones that had carried her across enchanted journeys and through echoes of the past. The creatures bowed low, the forest bowed lower, and for one breathless moment, the entire universe seemed to lean closer, as if bearing witness to the rebirth of a bond that had slept too long beneath the stars. With the golden seed pressed close to her heart, Lyanna lifted her gaze to the waiting path, the journey not yet ended, the story still unfolding. A bridge stretching from the heart of sleeping worlds back into the arms of the waking world. And as she stepped forward, the forest exhaled a sigh of joy, scattering stardust into the night and stitching her forever into the ever-growing, ever-dreaming tapestry of hidden wonders. The path ahead unfolded like a silver ribbon between the trees, glowing faintly under the tender gaze of stars that had watched over countless enchanted journeys. Lyanna walked slowly, the golden seed pressed safely to her chest, feeling the gentle weight of destiny settle upon her shoulders like a cloak spun from hidden wonders. Each step stirred soft murmurs from the forest, as if the sleeping worlds themselves whispered encouragement for the choice she was about to make. As the mist thinned and the twilight brightened just slightly, she found herself standing before a great archway made of living vines and glistening roots, woven so intricately that they seemed to hum with echoes of the past. Beyond it, faint and wavering like a reflection on water, she could see the outline of her own world, familiar fields, crumbling ruins, and the life she had once known. The portal shimmered with possibility, offering a path back to the forgotten kingdoms of her waking life. Beside the archway stood Lyanna, his massive form framed by the dancing lights of the mystical realms. His face, carved with the wisdom of ancient legends, was serene but touched with a sadness too deep for words. He said nothing at first, only watching her with eyes that had seen countless wandering souls come to this very crossroad. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, carrying the weight of timeless dream. The forest has accepted you, Lyanna. You may stay. Become one with the hidden wonders, live among the sleeping worlds. Or you may return, bearing the seed of magic into a realm that has long since forgotten its own dreams. The choice lay before her like a breath held between two worlds, one familiar but faded, the other vibrant but veiled. To stay was to lose herself within the mystical realms, to live forever among the lost tales and the echoes of the past. To return was to carry a fragile spark into a place that might not remember how to nurture it, where wonder had long been buried beneath the dust of reason and routine. Tears pricked Lyanna's eyes, blurring the beauty of both paths before her. She turned to Lyanna, seeking reassurance, but found none, only the gentle, immovable patience of one who had seen many make their own way. She realized then that no one could choose for her. She was no longer a girl to be guided by the tides of ancient legends. She was a bearer of her own destiny, stitched into the very fabric of enchanted journeys yet to be sung. Drawing a deep, steady breath scented with the lingering perfume of starlight and moss, Lyanna made her choice. She turned toward the archway, the world of crumbling ruins and new beginnings calling softly to her. She would return, not to the life she had left, but to the life she was meant to shape. She would carry the memory of the mystical realms into the waking world, sowing seeds of wonder in the hearts of those who had long forgotten how to dream. Olander inclined his great head in blessing, and for a fleeting moment, Lyanna saw a glimmer of pride in his aidless eyes. He extended his hand, palm open, and upon it rested a single, tiny flame, a farewell gift from the sleeping world. She cupped it in her hands, feeling it merge with the golden seed she carried, weaving together the echoes of the past with the hopes of the future. With one last look at the forest, at the shimmering trees, the winding rivers, the starlit glades of hidden wonders, Lyanna stepped through the archway. And as she crossed, the forest sang, not a song of ending, but a new beginnings, a gentle, lilting melody stitched into the timeless streams of all forgotten kingdoms. Carried now by a wandering soul ready to awaken a sleeping world. Crossing the threshold felt like stepping through a dream stitched loosely to the waking world, a delicate seam where the two realms kissed and whispered their farewells. Lyanna emerged into the ruins where her journey had first begun, the air sharp and cool against her cheeks, carrying with it the scent of damp stone and distant fires. Yet, even as the familiar world settled round her, she could feel it, the pulse of the mystical realms thrumming softly beneath her skin, the breath of hidden wonders forever braided into her soul. The crumbling arches and moss-draped stones had not changed, but Lyanna had. Where once she had seen only decay and silence, now she glimpsed forgotten kingdoms shimmering just beyond the veil, places where ancient legends still stood in the shadow of fallen towers, and echoes of the past whispered through the roots of sleeping trees. She moved carefully through the ruins, each step a silent vow to honor the timeless dreams that had trusted her with their fragile, luminous secrets. In the small pouch at her side, the golden seed glowed faintly, its light spilling through the seams like stardust. It hummed a low, steady song that only she could hear, a song of enchanted journeys yet to come, of hidden wonders yearning to be reborn in a world that had long forgotten how to listen. Lyanna understood now that the seed was not merely a gift. It was a promise, stitched into her very breath, a bridge between mystical realms and waking hearts. She chose a spot at the center of the ruins, where sunlight pierced the canopy in a perfect, golden beam. Kneeling upon the cool earth, Lyanna dug a small hollow in the soil and placed the seed gently within it. For a moment, nothing stirred. Then, slowly, reverently, the ground quivered, and from the seed sprouted a slender shoot, unfurling leaves of deepest green and gold, shimmering with the light of sleeping worlds and the breath of countless wandering souls. Tears blurred Lyanna's vision as she watched the tiny tree stretch upward, its fragile trunk already strong, its roots already digging deep into the memories of the forgotten kingdoms that had once danced freely in this place. It was a sign, a silent herald, that magic had not been lost forever. The hidden wonders would bloom again, if only enough dreamers dared to listen, dared to believe, dared to plant their own seeds in the weary soil of the waking world. Word spread quietly, as such miracles often do. Travelers passing through the ruins would sometimes pause, drawn inexplicably to the sight of the golden tree glistening beneath the sun. Some swore they heard music among its branches. Others claimed they dreamed vividly for the first time in years after resting in its shade. None could explain it, but all agreed. Something ancient and beautiful had begun to stir, stitching itself slowly back into the hearts of those willing to listen. As for Lyanna, she remained a quiet presence in the world she had returned to, a storyteller, a healer of forgotten dreams, a weaver of lost tales into the fabric of everyday life. She wandered from village to village, from field to forest, her songs carrying the gentle echoes of the past, planting seeds not just in earth, but in the hearts of all who crossed her path. In her smile, in her touch, in the hush of her footsteps, the breath of the enchanted journeys lived on. And somewhere, deep beneath the starlit skies, the sleeping world sang softly to themselves, knowing that one of their own had carried their timeless dreams back into the waking world. A light rekindled, a legacy sown, a golden bridge between all forgotten kingdoms, and the hearts still brave enough to dream. In the gentle hush of twilight, beneath skies tinged with the last blush of violet and gold, a new story began to weave itself into the fabric of the world. It was not announced by trumpets or parades, but by the soft murmur of the wind carrying the scent of growing things, by the laughter of rivers once thought silent, by the slow awakening of ancient legends breathing once more through the forgotten kingdoms. A new era had begun, not with a roar, but with a whisper, as all enchanted journeys must. Lyanna's steps grew lighter as she traveled, each footfall sowing invisible seeds across the weary earth. Wherever she wandered, the mystical realms stirred just beneath the surface, tiny flowers blooming in abandoned courtyards, trees bowing in greeting to wandering souls. Sleeping worlds blinking open eyes long shut against the march of years in the quiet places. Between towns and dreams, hope blossomed, fragile at first, but resilient. Like the golden tree she had planted, she spoke little of her journey, offering instead small gifts, a story here, a song there, a whispered tale beneath a sky crowded with stars. She spoke of hidden wonders, of timeless dreams that waited patiently for hearts brave enough to listen. And slowly, gently, the world began to remember, not fully, not perfectly, but enough for lost tales to catch like fire among those whose spirits still carried the echoes of the past. Children were the first to notice. They sat wide-eyed at her feet, mouths open in wonder, as she described rivers that sang and forests that breathed. They dreamed vividly after hearing her words, dreams of forgotten kingdoms and mystical realms, and sometimes they woke with leaves tangled in their hair or stardust clinging to their fingers. They did not question it, for children, unlike many adults, have always known the borders between sleeping worlds and waking ones are paper thin. And so the old magic began to seep back into the bones of the earth, not in grand, sweeping gestures, but in quiet rebirth, a well long dry suddenly bubbling with fresh water. A tree blooming out of season, its blossoms humming softly in the twilight, travelers finding themselves inexplicably smiling as they crossed meadows stitched with golden threads of light. Everywhere, the hidden wonders stitched themselves patiently into the waking world, weaving a new song from the scattered echoes of the past. Lyanna often returned to the golden tree at the ruins, now grown tall enough to scatter shimmering seeds of its own on the winds. She would sit beneath its wide, welcoming branches, feeling the steady thrum of the mystical realms through the roots, through her skin, through the stardust braided into her very breath. And she would smile, knowing that what had begun in one wandering soul had now blossomed into a tide that no force of forgetting could ever fully erase. She knew the enchanted journeys would continue long after her steps had faded into the hush of memory, carried on in songs, in stories, in the timeless dreams that lived wherever courage and wonder still burned brightly. She had become a bridge not just between worlds, but between eras, a living link between the ancient legends and the new dreams yet to be born among the sleeping worlds, and somewhere, in the soft sigh of the wind through the golden leaves, a question floated, delicate and persistent, reaching toward every heart willing to hear. And you, traveler, have you heard the forest's call? If tonight's journey touched your heart, if a hidden wonder, a wandering soul, or a forgotten kingdom whispered to you through, I would love to know. Share in the comments which part of the story stirred your dreams the most. Every echo you leave behind keeps the ancient legends alive. And if your spirit still hungers for more enchanted journeys, click now on the story appearing on your screen. If tonight's path stirred your heart, the next tale will carry you even deeper into the dreamscape, into new sleeping worlds, waiting for your footsteps, with stardust and soft dream. Mystical Sleep Tales